Today we are exploring the alt-rock project Misled, and we're really anticipating their brand new single, Through Your Eyes, which drops for you to listen to this Saturday.
And to really understand what you're actually going to hear this weekend, we have a pretty fascinating stack of sources to go through today.
We do. We've got AI archive logs, we have architectural lore blueprints,
hmm
raw project dossier notes, and some really striking visual assets, too.
Yeah, and the mission here is to contrast this highly anticipated new track with their incredibly heavy debut release, Pictures Off the Wall.
Right. And to really grasp the uncompromising, honestly brutal creative framework that fuels this band. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand what they're doing on Saturday, we have to look at the machinery of how Brent Medina and Philip Harris actually build a song.
The machinery is honestly the perfect word for it because they operate with this highly regimented division of labor. Like, Philip and Brent's collaborative roots actually stretch way back to the early 2000s.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah. It's an era marked in their archives as the Josh and Brandon Show era. They were growing up in this highly rigid, deeply rooted environment, and Philip was this quiet, crucial presence just sort of in the background.
Right. He even wrote a verse for an early track they did called A Natural Thing, didn't he?
He did, yeah. But it wasn't until later, like right before Brent relocated to Alabama, that the actual foundation for Misled was poured. And it happened with a literal physical object.
The Notebook.
The notebook, exactly. Philip hands this physical notebook to Brent, and he gives him a two-word directive. Just use whatever.
Just use whatever. That is so cool.
Right. And inside, Brent finds this poem called Fairweathered. And it was this completely unflinching, cold documentation of Philip's parents going through a divorce. And Brent recognized the parallels to his own life right away. So he adapted the lyrics and embedded Philip's words into the music. That handoff basically established the dynamic that they still use today.
So Philip is the raw lyrical engine, and Brent is the vocal conduit and, like, the instrumental architect.
Exactly. Philip pulls the memories up from the depths, and Brent builds the sonic structure to actually hold them.
But what really fascinates me is the timeline of how that structure got built. Because I was looking at the dossier, and this wasn't some smooth, continuous creative journey at all.
Not even close.
For a really long time, Misled was just sitting on a hard drive.
It was essentially a digital time capsule. The archives actually categorize it as a dormant 2022 project.
Which is wild. They just stopped.
Yeah, they sat down for just 3 recording sessions that year. Basically a couple of hours where Brent laid down Philip's guitar ideas to create a tracking foundation, and then everything just halted.
Wait, I want to hover on that for a second.
Yeah.
Why did it stop? I mean, you have a foundation, you have the ideas. Why just walk away for 4 years?
Well, it goes back to that strict division of labor we just talked about. The notes show this wasn't an abandonment at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Brent archived those ideas on his PC with this very specific internal mandate. He told himself he would not touch them until Philip was ready to return.
Because if he did, he'd ruin it.
Exactly. If Brent had kept going alone, he would have inevitably injected his own emotional narrative into the tracks. He would have ruined the experiment. He needed Philip's completely detached lyrical engine to drive the car, so to speak.
So the tracks just sit there in digital stasis until February 2026. And the timing of Philip finally reaching out to pick this back up is, like, almost absurdly chaotic.
It really is. I mean, when Philip finally says he's ready, Brent is in the middle of launching an entire label.
Right, Outsounding Entertainment.
Yep. And not only that, he is manually remastering a 24-year archive of vault material.
Oh, man. Just imagine the psychological toll of listening to 2 decades of your own voice.
I know, right? Organizing old eras, trying to manage multiple creative lanes. His bandwidth is completely maxed out.
And then suddenly, resurrecting Misled becomes this urgent, immediate production priority right in the middle of all that storm.
Which honestly might be the exact friction they needed.
That's a good point. Because when you are that overwhelmed, you just don't have the luxury of overthinking or wallowing in nostalgia. You just have to execute.
Just do the work.
Exactly. And that brings us to the core rule of their entire project, the mandate that hangs over everything they do. And this is a quote from the sources, written off memory, not feelings.
It's so stark.
It is. They actively reject the music industry's obsession with fake healing. They actually call what they do a cold report filed against a broken system.
The clinical nature of it is really striking. There's even an AI log in the archive that highlights this.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
So Brent uses an artificial intelligence to help organize the massive outsounding archive, right? And the AI notes that it operates strictly as an analytical engine. It logs evidence without any human sentimentality.
And they just adopted that.
Pretty much. Misled has basically adopted that exact machine-like detachment to process their own human trauma.
It reminds me of a crime scene investigation unit.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, like if you walk into a room where a window has been smashed and a struggle took place, the investigator stringing up the yellow tape isn't there to weep over the broken glass.
No, they have a job to do.
Exactly. They aren't trying to elicit a tear from the jury. They're just cataloging the wreckage. They're saying, here is the point of impact. Here is the trajectory of the damage. Here is what was left behind.
And that's exactly what Brent and Philip are doing.
They are taking these emotional x-rays of their own history and just pinning them up on the light board for you to look at.
And we can see exactly what that looks like when we look at their debut release. The track that anchored this entire return.
Pictures off the wall.
Yes. Released on March 29th, 2026.
Which was a very significant date, right?
It was. It was the birthday of their grandma Nanny, the woman who raised Brent. And to hit that specific deadline, they had to urgently finish those dormant 2022 vocal sessions.
Wow, so a 4-year gap and then a mad dash to the finish line.
Exactly. They took a project that had been sitting in the dark for 4 years and turned it into a public-facing memorial. But what's really crucial here is how they built that memorial.
No metaphors.
Yeah.
That's what totally blew my mind going through the lyrics for this deep dive.
It's so unusual.
It is. Because when musicians write about grief, there's usually this heavy reliance on abstract poetry, like fading light or shifting seasons or empty spaces.
Right, lots of symbolism.
But Pictures Off the Wall doesn't do that at all. It is a literal, factual documentation of a heavy physical task. It's literally about the day they had to go into Nanny's apartment after she passed and physically take down the framed photographs that completely covered her walls.
It transforms grief from this abstract emotion into a tactile weight. You are hearing the documentation of hands pulling frames off nails, and that physical weight is mirrored beautifully in the visual asset they built for the track, too.
Describe that for the listeners because it's super striking.
Yeah, so we're looking at an image of a dark, slightly dilapidated room. The walls are entirely surrounded by framed family photos spanning all these different eras, and they're all just glowing in this dim light.
It's super atmospheric.
Very. And there are these heavy, thick candles melting down over a wooden credenza. And right in the center, there's an old velvet chair. Just empty, gathering dust.
It just looks heavy. Like, just looking at the visual, you feel the burden of trying to pack up an entire life into cardboard boxes.
It really perfectly captures that written-off memory role we were talking about.
Right. They aren't telling you how sad they were. They're just showing you the room.
What's fascinating here is how they pivot. Because if Pictures Off the Wall is the anchor, like a track about honoring a foundation of love, what happens when you pull that anchor up?
You definitely don't get a clean break.
No, you get the wreckage that follows. And that is exactly what we are getting this Saturday with the new single, Through Your Eyes.
The pivot here is massive. We're going from the tactile weight of a loved one's passing directly into unfiltered damage.
Total whiplash.
Seriously. The new track deals heavily with self-sabotage. It's about the brutal realization that sometimes survival requires breaking the things around you.
Yeah.
It's this idea that shattering your own illusions is the only way to eventually find actual genuine love.
It completely shifts the perspective. They are treating these tracks as what the lore blueprints actually call aftermath files.
Aftermath files. I love that term.
Right. The songs are essentially case studies in a larger catalog of consequences, and we see other files in their architecture that do the exact same thing.
Oh, like the file for Saturdays? The visual for that one is incredibly cinematic.
It really is.
It's a dark, rain-slicked parking lot outside a rundown bar. And there's this massive glowing neon sign reflecting off the puddles that just says Saturdays. An old, beat-up Chevy truck sits idling. 2 guys just sitting in the cold rain. And the notes explain it's a story documenting
They are building
the
a
reality
world
of alcohol
out of the
addiction.
wreckage. Yeah.
If an artist deliberately strips away all the sentimentality, all the poetic metaphors, and all the performative tears.
Which they absolutely do.
Right. If they report a traumatic, world-altering memory as nothing more than a cold, hard fact, does that lack of forced emotion actually leave you more vulnerable? does refusing to tell the audience how they are supposed to feel ultimately force you to feel the weight of that wreckage even more deeply.
That is the exact space Through Your Eyes is going to occupy.
Keep that X-ray in mind when you hit play this Saturday. We'll see you on the next deep dive.